On this episode of Narcissist Apocalypse, we talk with an abuse survivor named Hanna. And Hanna was in a 10-year relationship with a very controlling and eventually physically abusive narcissist. It's a story of guilt, caretaking, confusion, and power. Welcome to Narcissist Apocalypse, a podcast that gives a voice to survivors of narcissistic abuse. I am Brandon Chadwick, but my friends call me Chad, and thanks for tuning into this episode. So what is a narcissist, you may ask? Well, for the purposes of this podcast, we refer to a narcissist as anyone who has displayed a pattern of behavior that shows a limited capacity to appreciate others' perspectives. It is that simple. And now, before we get to our episode with Hanna, I just wanted to thank everyone in the Narcissist Apocalypse community for listening to the show, and we're excited that we're now offering high-conflict parenting courses that can be found at narcissistapocalypse.com/courses. Yes, we have now partnered with an online parenting company, and many of those courses we are offering were created by Bill Eddy. And if you've listened to our episode last year with a divorce lawyer named Helen, you'll know that Bill Eddy is an expert in dealing with these individuals in court. And he's now helped create many parenting courses to help you through divorce and to help support your children too. These courses are the most widely recognized courses by family courts across the country. So if you want to support the show and are looking for guidance, please do go to narcissistapocalypse.com/courses. And guess what? We have other ways you can support the show, everyone. Yes, we also have a Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/narcissistapocalypse. And on our Patreon, we have interviews that never made it to air. We have return guest episodes, and we'll be having more fun episodes there as well. So if you want to support the show, support our Patreon by becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/narcissistapocalypse. Also, I just want to thank everyone who is sharing your thoughts by Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and email. A big shout out to all of our friends in our Narcissist Apocalypse Facebook support group for just being a great group of people. So hello to all of you. And a reminder, if you have not left us a review on whatever podcast service you use, Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, Castbox, etc., please leave us a 5-star written review, as it helps out the show a lot when it comes to rankings. And before we continue, before we get to our show, we do have our other podcast, Narcissist Apocalypse Q&A, now available for your listening pleasure. Our last episode was with Elizabeth Bar-A, and we discussed the coronavirus and living in small spaces with people and being quarantined with people. So go and listen to that episode right now. It's at Narcissist Apocalypse Q&A and can be found on all of your podcast apps there too. Also, if you want to support the show once again, Elizabeth Bar-A is one of the many coaches and therapists that are on abusetherapy.org, which is our directory. So if you're looking for a therapist or a coach, please do go to abusetherapy.org. And if we don't have someone in your area, please let us know and we will help find someone for you. Using abusetherapy.org helps support the show. And last thing, we also have a YouTube channel, everyone. Yes, we also have a YouTube channel, and we started making fun pop culture narcissist-based videos. The last one was on Edward Cullen, narcissistic abuser, and we'll leave the link to that YouTube channel in our description of the show. And now I'm just fumbling over my words, so it's time for me to get out of my own way and your way. Here is my episode with Hanna. Welcome to Narcissist Apocalypse. With me tonight, I have Hanna. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. And you're about to tell us a story of your 10-year relationship with a narcissist. And I am just going to get out of my way and your way and give you the floor. And thank you for being here with me this evening.
Sure. So, before I met him, I was fresh out of school, I was working for a company during the day as a marketing and sales manager, and then at night I was working at a bar as a host. And how I met him, it was kind of funny. He actually used to come into the bar all the time at night with friends and actually different women. And I kind of got to know him a little bit, but didn't take too much notice. And then he actually ended up investing in the company that I work for during the day. So he became an investor in that. And my CEO would tell me, you have to go see Mike today and get him to do this, get him to do that. And so, I was just basically trying to sell everything and get all of the logistics worked out. And then Mike would call my CEO and say, I really need Hanna for the rest of the day. And so my CEO would call me and say, you can't leave, you have to stay, make sure he's happy, we need this money for the investment and whatnot. So I would stick around, and what ended up happening was there was absolutely no work being done. We would go for lunch, and lunches would turn into dinners, and then I would go to work at night, and then he would show up at my work at night. And so basically it went from I had no idea who this person was to literally seeing him during the day and during the night in my, at both my workplaces. And even then, I still really wasn't interested in speaking to him or anything like that. We became kind of friendly. And, one day, I guess we just, we kind of grew as friends. And then from there, one day he said, I really like you. And I said, I like you too. And he's like, no, but, I really like you. And I said, well, what are your intentions? And he said, I just want to have some fun. And I said, well, I don't do fun. And after that, we, continued to get to know each other, and then it developed into a full-blown relationship. He would come over all the time. I lived with my sister. I ended up giving him a key. And very early on, there were a lot of red flags, but I was 25. I had never been in a real relationship in my life, and I just thought that he really cared about me. So he would basically call me every second of the day. If he wasn't calling me, he was texting me. If he wasn't calling me or texting me, it's because he was with me. And again, I just thought, oh my gosh, this guy likes me so much. It's so nice to have all this attention. Like I said, I did give him the key to my place. And one night I woke up in the middle of the night. And again, I live with my sister, and we actually had a roommate as well. So, and we're all, 3 women. And one night I'm sleeping, and I wake up in the middle of the night, and he's standing over me. And I got up, and I was like, oh my gosh, are you okay? What? He's like, I had a nightmare about you, that something bad happened to you. And I just wanted to make sure you're okay. And again, talking about it now, I'm like, that's pretty crazy. That I didn't, see that as something more. But I really thought that oh my gosh, what a sweet guy. He really cares about me. He was worried. He came to check in on me. When, if that was to ever happen now, I would, run to the cops. But he was really, really good at love bombing me. So what he did in the beginning was basically he did very well for himself. He owned his own companies. So in the very beginning, it was always would you like to go out tonight? Yes. And I wasn't used to I wasn't used to somebody who is not only forward, but takes charge and actually like follows through with like things that they, you know, if they say they're going to call you or they say they're going to do something, it's like, you know, in the dating game, you don't usually get somebody who actually is consistent. So, you know, he would say, okay, do you want to go out tonight? Yes. And then I would have like a car service come and pick me up, and we would go, and I never had to worry about anything. He was just always wanting to take care of me, and he just wanted to take care of me. And I found it really, really nice. And on my actual, you know, birthday weekend, he goes, I want you to invite your friends and your brothers, and I want you to do this, I want you to do that. And I said, okay, what are we doing? And he actually rented out a private space in a club, and it was open bar, catered food. It was this massive production for my birthday. And I thought, oh my God, like this guy, that's it. Like he loves me. Like he loves me. He's done everything for me. And it wasn't until I want to say like maybe a month after that he started to be really negative towards me a lot. After the birthday party, things were still kind of okay. Things were still good. Then the first incident that I remember that really sticks with me is we went on vacation. He took me on a trip. He's like, I want to go away with you. And I said, okay. So we went on vacation, and we're having a great time. And then he said, you know, do you love me? And at this point, we had already exchanged I love yous. We, you know, already said you're my soulmate and all that, you know, all of that stuff, you know. And I said, oh, I don't love you, like as a joke. And he went quiet and started to ignore me. And I said, I'm kidding. Like, I'm joking. Like, you know, I love you. And he made me feel so guilty. Like I didn't know what to do with myself. It's like I was trying to show him like it was a joke. I was trying to get him to talk to me. He was ignoring me. He was very like sullen. And, you know, after that, that lasted for maybe like, cause we're on vacation. So that lasted for maybe like 3 or 4 hours. And then after that, it was like more like me trying to like, just make sure he's happy. And then he was happy all of a sudden again. And that was something that really stood out for me.
So you hit a wound of his, in a sense, his narcissistic wound. He got triggered, and then the guilt trip happened, and you had to work very hard in the sense to reassure him and make him all of a sudden you were being this apologetic person to his mood and caretaking his situation. And in your mind, was that kind of like the beginning of how I assume you know, within your relationship, you became a caretaker always of those feelings?
Always.
Yeah.
Always. 100%. 100%. 100%. And when I had met him, I was very open about being a spiritual person, but not believing in religion or God. And he was like, yeah, I get it. He's like, I'm Muslim, but yeah, you're right. And it's just about people being good. And he was very like open to the fact that I was not a religious person, and I was raised Muslim, but I'm not Muslim. I have extended family who's very religious, but my immediate family is atheist or spiritual or agnostic. And he was really open to all of that. And then as soon as we started to get deeper into the relationship, he would say really horrible, disgusting things about my family. He would call me an infidel. I didn't even know what an infidel at the time was. I didn't know what that meant. And he would just say, you know, my sister, when I was younger, I had a sister that passed away, which he knew. And he would say comments as in like, well, God didn't want, God takes away things because people don't deserve it, or, and he would indirectly tell me that my sister passed away because my family's not religious. He used every single thing I ever told him to hurt me and damage me in some way or hold it over my head. And the whole thing with religion was crazy to me because, and it's so crazy because it's like, I really believed he believed in Islam, but at the same time, I was like, how can you believe in Islam when you're living in sin, essentially? You're drinking, you're getting in fights, you're not very nice, but you pray and you keep proclaiming that you believe in religion. And it was so hard to understand because I really felt like, well, I feel like my morals and my ethics and my values are actually are superior to yours, but somehow I was made out to be this crazy, irrational, unbelieving, undeserving person.
Mm-hmm. So we'll eventually get all into that later, but I interrupted you before, and where were we?
Sorry. So what happened is after the vacation, we got back, and again, I think we were still in pretty much like we were still in the love bombing stage because he noticed that, I had an old TV. And so all of a sudden a new TV showed up at my house and he bought me a new TV. And, and he was buying all these gifts and we were going out all the time and spending so much time together. But he was also like, it was very weird. He would bring up his ex and compare me to his ex. Which I later found out he was actually still living with her when he was with me. But he would tell me stories about how his ex is crazy, his ex has mental health issues, his ex needs help, I have to be understanding. And then, I had to like rationalize it. At this point, I am deeply in love with him, and he's telling me that he is doing something to help somebody that is not mentally well. So I'm really fighting with myself. So I'm like, well, if you're a good person, you should understand that he's just trying to support somebody who needs help. So who are you to say that he's not allowed to be a good person to this person that he was with before you? And that was really hard. And that took a really big, toll on my self-esteem because it's the weirdest thing, and I can't explain it. It's like you almost know that they're lying to you, but you can't admit that they're lying to you. And I'm not somebody who's ever felt like that would be me. Like I'm the first person to call you out on your bullshit, but it's such, he was so good at manipulating things that I kind of didn't know what was up or down. And you kind of just went with it. I never, ever bit my tongue when it came to something that I noticed. But no matter what I would say, he would always find a way to confuse me or explain it away or make me feel like I'm somehow the most terrible person in the world for even questioning him or for even bringing it up. Like, I would get this a lot. I would say, hey, when your phone rang at 1 o'clock in the morning, that really hurt me. Why would somebody be calling you at 1 o'clock in the morning? And I would literally approach it in a constructive way. I wanted to know, can you explain this to me? I'm not accusing you of anything. I want to understand. This was hurtful to me. And he would say, how dare you? How dare you start a fight with me when you know that I have a meeting in the morning? You are so selfish. You are so selfish. And I'd be like, what? Huh? I'm just asking you because, that hurt me. This is what happened, and it hurt me, and I just wanted to bring it up. And somehow, I would actually end up apologizing. I would actually end up apologizing to him and never address what actually happened. And it was, and then not only would I end up apologizing, I would try even harder to show him how much I care about him. And it's like it's like, I don't know, it's like any time that I got upset about anything, he would be offended that I was upset. So I was never allowed to be upset, because if I was upset about something, it would somehow get twisted back around on me, and then I would end up being the one who was to blame. I would feel so much guilt, and I would end up apologizing for it, and trying to make it up to him. And that was like a constant. Oh yeah. I walked around with constant guilt. If he was sick, it was very weird. He would do this thing where he would get sick, and then he would be very, very cruel towards me. Very cruel. And then I would say, oh my God, like, can I see you? Can I whatever? You know, I was trying so hard to show him that I wanted to be there for him, but he would push me away and he wouldn't want me around. And then I'd be like, okay, I guess you don't like it when, you know, maybe some people are different. Maybe you don't like me being around when you're not feeling well. And then after, or in the midst of it, he would criticize me and tell me what a bad person I am for not being around and not being dependable, when all I was trying to do was be there and be around, but he wouldn't let me. So it didn't matter, really. It didn't matter if I went left or right. It was always my fault.
I was about to say the exact same thing. He was going to blame you no matter what choice you had. You were going to get the brunt. If you said left, it was going to be right. If you said right, he's going to say no, left.
Yeah. Yep.
And I assume then eventually it was always something. Something was always happening. Nothing could, not a day could go by. Something had to be nitpicked. Something always had to be complained about.
100%. 100%. 100%. Something always had to be complained about, and he always projected everything onto me. And I didn't find out, like, if you had asked me any time throughout our 10 years of our relationship, you know, has Mike cheated on you? I would have said, absolutely not. He flirts with girls all the time in front of me. I know he does. I know he flirts with girls all the time. He just likes the attention. But, you know, we always go home together. He would never cheat on me, ever. Well, that changed when the relationship ended, and I realized how much he actually cheated. He was just a serial cheater. But up until this day, he will tell you that he was faithful. And that is so far from the truth. And I never would have believed it. And I actually had girls come up to me and say, you know, your fiance just hit on me. And I'd be like, he's just a flirt. Like, I would literally brush it off. And I would see things that are so extremely inappropriate, and I would brush it off. But at the same time, and this is another key thing that I know he must have been cheating, other than obviously there was a lot of different signs and different things that I was privy to, and willfully blind or stupid, or I don't know what it was. But at the same time, he would accuse me of cheating constantly. Constantly accuse me of cheating. He was extraordinarily jealous. If I looked down the street, say we're sitting on a patio and I'm looking down the street because that's the direction that I'm facing, he would actually keep looking over his shoulder, and if by any chance there was a guy walking by or a guy sitting at the table behind him or anything, he would be like, do you know that person? How do you know that person? You keep looking at that person. Do you want them? Why do you want them? What are you thinking? I think that he's so insecure that he actually convinced himself that that's what was happening. Like, I think that he believes everything that he says and that he projects. Like, I actually think he does. There's a lot of things that I know he doesn't believe. Like, I know he knows that I've never cheated, but at the same time, he will project that onto me. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to like those situations, I think that he is so insecure that he does think that that's what I'm thinking. And he takes it and believes it and runs with it. And the jealousy and the rage and the episodes that would ensue as a result of the jealousy made me start acting different. And I actually became a different person to the point where I didn't know how to act in public situations if there was somebody of the opposite sex. So if it was all women, I could kind of be myself. But if there was a man in my presence, with or without him, I was terrified to interact with them. And my sister actually said to me one day, we were out, it was my sister, me, and Mike, and, you know, my sister said, "You're acting very weird." And I was like, "No, I'm not." And she's like, "No, you are." And I was, because I was terrified of looking in the wrong direction. I was terrified of speaking to somebody I shouldn't speak to. I didn't know how to act. I did not know how to act. The only place I felt safe if it was just me and him, and then I couldn't be accused of behaving badly. I was constantly accused of wanting attention. I was constantly accused of flirting. I was constantly accused of cheating. Like, I didn't know how I was supposed to behave anymore.
So, I guess this is all happening in 6 months, and you guys were together for, you didn't get married, correct? You were just your fiance?
So, we got engaged twice.
Okay. But you were together for 10 years. So you already had this for 6 months, and then you had another 9.5 years of this. And
Absolutely.
then I assume worse.
Absolutely. It's funny because there were a lot of negative things that progressed, and there was a lot of things, to be honest with you, it's like I would get into a place where I feel like, oh, I've got this under control now. Like with the jealousy, I thought, okay, I was still scared to interact with people, but I was starting to get more comfortable. And every time I would get a little too comfortable, boom, he would pull me back in. He would pull me back in and check me. So, for our last engagement, for instance, he asked me to plan an event for his company. I said, great, I'll plan an event for your company. And there was one of the executives was a man, and the other one was a woman, and they were planning it with me. And I got accused of liking the guy. We had all of, the event was planned within like 3 or 4 days. We had almost maybe 5 conversations. We exchanged emails. And I got accused of trying to seduce him and liking him and being inappropriate. And he told me that, I was basically that I was a gross person and that's the help. And he called me inadequate as a woman. And, I didn't know how to behave. So yes, it did progress, but at the same time, it's like, we had a lot of like times where it's like, I don't know if it's like it was under control or I was just very careful in the way I moved. But the second I would show him or be outright in just being a human being, he didn't like it, he would bring me back down. Mm-hmm. He would make sure that he checks me. So
I guess after the 6 months, how did your relationship, progress going forward?
So the love bombing was happening constantly. He would do the love bomb. He would again, and his love bomb was all monetary, as well as I mean, if I had to tell you how many times I loved you, we wouldn't have enough time. I heard I love you 50 times a day. I heard, you're the love of my life. You're my soulmate. I've never cared anybody like you. We're so connected. I would hear that constantly. I mean, within the whole 10 years, I heard it. But in between that, I would be told that I'm evil. I'm a bad person. I don't care. I have no soul. I'm an infidel. I'm surrounded by bad people. He hated anybody in my life. Anybody in my life he hated. He would insult my family. He would insult my friends. He did not like me to talk to anybody. And he would justify it and say, it's because I love you and you're better than them. You don't know it, but you're better than them. You shouldn't associate with people like that. And I would have to fight to try to hold on to those relationships. But how it progressed was, and at one point, you know, he said that he couldn't be with me and he broke up with me. And then I remember kind of, you know, being really upset about it and walking around my place going, what am I going to do? This is the love of my life. How could he leave me? And then coming back and telling me he was wrong and me taking him back. What happened was the roommate moved out and my brother wanted to move in. Now, when it was just me, my sister, and this other girl, he was like, no problem. Like, he could deal with that. But if my brother was going to move in, that was not okay. So when he asked me one day, he's like, well, where is he going to stay? Because at this point, the roommate hadn't moved out yet. She was still going to be there in the transition period of my brother moving in. So I had the largest room in the condo, and he goes, where's your brother going to stay? And I said, I don't know. He could sleep in my bed. I don't know where he's going to stay. And he actually accused me of incest with my own brother. That that to this day is probably one of the hardest, one of the most hurtful things and one of the hardest things that I've had to deal with, because it came to the point where my relationship was strained with my brother because I was scared to act affectionate towards him when I'm a very affectionate person, because of the comments that my ex made. So he accused me of this, and then the day my brother was supposed to move in, my ex calls me. He says, I'm downstairs, I'm coming up. We're packing everything. I said, what? He goes, yep, you're moving out today. I said, okay. So he comes upstairs, we pack all my stuff, and he moves me into a rental condo. He says, you're going to stay here until you find a place to live. And I said, okay. I go, what do you mean, like, find a place to live? He's like, you're going to buy a condo. And I don't have enough money. Like, I'm still paying off my student loans. I've got, like, you know, and he's like, it's okay. You're just go find a condo. So I go, you know, it takes me like, you know, 2-3 months. I find a condo, and my ex buys me the condo outright. Buys me this condo. And after that, it was definitely the beginning of the end, because after, I want to say like 4 months of moving into the condo was the first time he ever physically put his hands on me. So that's how our relationship progressed. And then from there, we just continued to be together. And again, I think he was still in a relationship with his ex, which just had me really confused, because, like, I wasn't sure if he was, but I thought he was. But then I would catch him on the phone, but then he said he wasn't. It was. I can't explain it unless you've been in the situation. And then we did end up getting engaged. And the same week we got engaged, we went out with my friends for Halloween, a bunch of my girlfriends, and there was other people there. And he hit on every single girl there, yelled at me in public, got belligerently drunk. And after that happened, I said, how could you do this to me? And I called off the engagement. And he ended up getting mad at me for being upset again. There was absolutely nothing he could do that wasn't somehow my fault. So for me to be upset that he was touching women inappropriately in front of me, for me to be upset that he yelled at me in public and insulted me in public, for me to be upset about any of that was not a justification for me to be upset. So the fact that I was upset made him upset. And when I called off the engagement, he, again, got even more upset and said that I am emotional, I'm irrational, that is no reason to be upset. We could have talked through it. And it's my problem. What else?
So right now, I don't know how far we are in your relationship, but you are a shadow of who you were before, and you obviously probably do not recognize what you've become because you're not the same person anymore emotionally, and things are happening that have never happened before. And since I guess you've never experienced a relationship in this manner before, or what your belief of what a relationship should be, you really have no frame of reference, of really what is right or wrong. And are you questioning those things, or,
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So all I kept thinking was, I have to do better. I have to do better. If there's something I'm doing wrong, I have to do better. But at the same time, I do recognize that there's things that aren't right. But it was very weird. Like, he would explain things to me in a way that it was like justifying how he would treat me. So again, I would feel guilty and have to do better. I always had to do better. And it was crazy because, this one time I met a new friend who was still a very good friend of mine today, and he didn't like he didn't like any of my friends, period. But he didn't like, me meeting a new person and having another friend. So he accused me, he said that she was a lesbian and that she wanted to be with me and that it was creepy, and it was a creepy relationship. And while he's telling me this, and he's saying all of these disgusting things about her, we are hanging out with her because I want her to be my friend. And he is smiling with her. He is acting inappropriate with her. He is, telling her how much he loves her and how awesome she is and all of these great things. And then the second he has a moment to whisper in my ear, he's telling me really, really insulting things about her. So this is all happening. And then that's on our side. And then on her side, she's telling me how amazing he is. Wow, Mike is really amazing, and he loves you so much, and Mike is this, and Mike is that, and he's so awesome. I really love him. You're so lucky, all of this. And she has no idea what's happening. And I'm like, yeah, he loves you too. And so at this point, I just feel like the biggest fraud, the biggest liar. And I had to be a liar on top of that because he lied about so much stuff that I had to kind of be the continuation of whatever he would lie about. He also lied to me about his age. 3.5 years into our relationship, I found out how old he actually was. I had no idea. He actually lied about his age. I thought he was like 7 years older than me. It turned out that he was 16 years older than me.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Did the physical abuse increase, and not just in, I guess, time, how often it would happen, but in the force that was used?
Yeah. So, again, like, I was not ever quiet throughout the relationship. Like, I was very vocal about what I didn't like, but at the same time, I always took him back, and I was always apologetic. So it was like I was validating him, and I was saying that his behavior was acceptable. So the first time he attacked me, I was actually in bed, and I wasn't even really paying attention to him. He was kind of, I think he was drinking, and he was kind of on a rampage, just talking to himself back and forth. And I was kind of just ignoring him in bed. And I don't know what upset him. I don't remember exactly. But he actually jumped onto the bed and started to choke me. And it's so crazy because I don't even know how he explained it away. And listening to myself say the story, it still doesn't make sense. But somehow he said it in a way that it wasn't against me, and he's sorry, and he was having a bad day. And again, like, I can't explain it. I don't even know what to say. It was something that I just accepted and shrugged off. And he wasn't constantly hurting me. He wasn't constantly hitting me. He would, like, the physical abuse would happen maybe once a year, once every year and a half. So for me, it was more like, okay, every time, like, I would think that, oh my God, it hasn't happened for so long, it's not going to happen again. That was a one-off. Like, he wasn't in a good place, or I did something that really upset him. I pushed him over the edge because that's not his character. So I would get comfortable again. But in between the physical assault, he would get this look in his eye, and his voice would change, and I would be absolutely terrified of what was going to happen next. So I would check myself and make sure that I behaved accordingly. And if I was able to, I would also run. So I would leave whatever situation we're in, or I would try to get into a public space as fast as possible so that it wouldn't progress. So the second engagement, I actually planned the full wedding. We were 2 months away from the wedding, and I called it off 2 months before. So I had all my dresses, all of the deposits were made, everything was in place, everything was done. Everybody had bought their tickets, invitations, were ready, everything was done. And I think what made me call off the wedding was the closer we got, the more he upped the abuse. So he wasn't physically abusing me, he was emotionally abusing me at this time, and he was depriving me of sleep on top of it. So I was going a little bit loopy. And I think that he believed that, oh, she's finally getting, what she wants. The wedding is going to go through, so I can basically do whatever I want. So when that happened, it was just like, it was literally just nights of him waking me up in the middle of the night, yelling at me, insulting me, accusing me of wanting other men. One day I was very, very sick, and he basically just didn't care that I was sick and still wanted me to do everything for him. I I was upset because I was very sick. He came home intoxicated, pushed me off the bed. And, you know, in the morning, I didn't want to start a fight. And he did have a big meeting. And I didn't want to start a fight, but I wasn't affectionate. So I was just very cold. I was very cold and I was very quiet. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to engage. I didn't want to anything. And that set him off. We were actually away at the time on a business trip, and he said to me, you know, he goes, "You're walking around here, you know, fucking quiet and sulking, and you know what? Go wait in the hallway." I'm in my robe in a hotel in a different city, and he says, "Go wait in the fucking hallway." I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah. You know what? You're not being a supportive fucking partner. You should have ordered me breakfast by now, had this laid out for me, been supportive, done what you need to do to support me as your man and support us as a couple, and you can't even do that? You're useless. Go wait in the fucking hallway." And I just remember breaking down and crying at that point. I never actually got to the hallway, but I couldn't believe that I'm like about to walk down the aisle with somebody, and I didn't even say anything or do anything. They did everything wrong, and I just wanted to be quiet and not discuss it, and that's how I was getting talked to. And so that was just like one of the things that happened. But it was just like basically all the insults and the pain was like everything was heightened, and it was like he could do whatever he wanted. And I thought, oh my God, if I marry him, I'm never going to be able to get away from him. Because even when I agreed to finally go through with the wedding, I didn't agree from a place of, oh my God, I'm so excited, I love you, I can't wait to get married to you. I agreed from a place of, I've been with you for 10 years. Every time I try to leave, you suck me back in. I can't get away. So I might as well just do it.
But you were able to get away. You were able to. What was the thought process in your brain? Or is this the thought process in your brain that made you get away for good?
The thought process in my brain was, at least, what scared me was, at this point, so we shared residence. So we bought a house together. Like, he paid for the house, but we bought the house together. It was like, hey, do you want to live in this house? And I said, yep, this is the house I want. Let's buy this house. Okay, great. So we buy this house together, and we are basically sharing both residences now. So we're sharing the house and we're sharing the condo. So we're at both places. And if he works late or I think he's drank too much, I can stay at the condo alone, and I send him to the house. And that's how it is. It's basically like, hey, like, you've had too much to drink, or I don't want to see you tonight. Let's sleep separate, whatever the case may be. What scared the shit out of me was the fact that because my stuff at this point is almost completely moved in. Like, I always had things there, but the whole purpose is that we would no longer have the condo downtown. I would rent it out, or we would have the condo, but we would make sure that we're in the house every single night unless we were both in the condo together. And so my thing was, I was just terrified of being in one place and never being able to get away again.
So what was the process from that moment to eventually breaking up with him, and what did you encounter with him when that process began?
So it was interesting. So he told me so I said to him, I want to call off the wedding. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Okay, I want you to come meet me and we're going to talk about this. Okay. So I go to meet him in a restaurant to talk about it. And in the restaurant, his face just changed. And I was so grateful that we were in a public place, because if we weren't, I knew that that was the first sign of something really bad was going to happen. So when that happened, again, it just affirmed, like it reaffirmed the fact that you need to get away from this person because you know that look, and that look means that something really bad is coming to you. And, you know, just be happy that you're in a public place. And so after that, I left that meeting, and he said he wanted to go to counseling. So we did do a couple of counseling sessions. And when we were in the counseling sessions, it was the craziest thing. The counselor would say one thing to us, and after we would leave, he would say something completely different. He would be like, yeah, didn't you hear what the counselor said? The counselor said this. And I'd be like, he didn't say that. He'd be like, yeah, he did. And he was constantly making me second guess myself. Like I would literally see something with my own two eyes, and then he would tell me that I didn't see that or that it happened differently. And so I was always very, very confused. So after we would get out of the counseling session, he would, you know, one of the subjects that came up was drinking, and the counselor basically told him that he drank too much. After we left, he's like, see, I told you. I go, told me what? He's like, see, I don't drink too much. The counselor even said I didn't. And I'm thinking, were we in the same session? Because he said the exact opposite. But somehow, you know, he's telling me, like, he said it this way. And then I'm like, it would make me go crazy because now I'm second guessing myself going, did I hear this right? Is this happening?
So his last ditch effort against you to stop the breakup from happening was to do extreme gaslighting, where he would just manipulate everything that was said in a therapist section and get someone of authority in his mind, or not to get someone, but to reinterpret in his mind what the authority person said to get you to believe that. To believe what the actual therapist said? I confused 100%. Myself what I even said right there. I know. I think I'm going to go.
No, but it's 100%. Like, he gaslighted me throughout the entire relationship. Like, I literally, like, didn't, I would, you know, it was to the point where he would actually say, like, I would say, hey, we ran into this girl, and he would say, no, we didn't. And I go, what do you mean we didn't? Like, I was there. Like, we ran into her. He's like, no, it was this person.
But did you go back, though, in this case with the therapist, did you go back and ask the therapist, is this what you said?
So I didn't do that, but what happened was like we had sessions together, and then we would have independent sessions as well. And so what Mike did was, honestly, he deserves an award, because when he would go for the sessions on his own, like, I wouldn't talk about my sessions because my sessions are very personal. But he would talk about his sessions that he had with the therapist. And he would basically tell me how the therapist was siding with him and against me. Mm-hmm. So I started to distrust. I really liked this therapist. I really, really liked him. And then I started to distrust him, because I'm thinking that he's saying all these other things and that he's actually against me. And again, like, I don't know what's true and what's not.
But you were able to fight through all of this gaslighting and still end the relationship?
Yeah, and I think at that point, I still didn't know he was a narcissist. I really didn't. I didn't know he was a narcissist. I didn't even know that word. I didn't even think about that. All I knew was that I started recording conversations, because I thought that I would tell him, I'm like, I'm going to have a mental breakdown. Like, something is wrong. Something is physically wrong. Like, I can't, I don't know what to do. Like, it was to the point where I would tell my friend, you know, I hope that somebody hospitalizes me. And she'd be like, you know, that's not a normal thing to say. And so I had to start recording conversations to figure out if I was actually going crazy. And once I started to record the conversations and realize that, you know, I am right and I am justified in feeling how I feel and believing what I believe and thinking what I think, I still didn't think anything was wrong with him in a sense. I thought that, you know what? He interprets things differently than I do. He interprets things differently. He sees things differently, and he really believes what he says. It's not against me, but I couldn't handle it anymore. And I basically said, you know what, like I couldn't even, just the thought of going through with the wedding, because at this point I still truly believed that I loved him and that he loved me, but I thought that he would make the wedding so ugly and so difficult, and I would be ashamed to get up there and do, you know, and get married in front of all of our friends and family. And I thought that he would embarrass me. I thought that he would do horrible things. And I thought, you know what, like, if we do, like I said, if we actually go through with this, then I will never be able to leave. So I called up the wedding planner. I said I needed to cancel all of the contracts. We're done. It's done. I will not go through with this. And at that point, I mentally and physically couldn't. I just felt so numb that the thought of making one decision or putting on a dress or doing an alteration or anything, like I physically couldn't bring myself to do it. I was having anxiety attacks. I was having panic attacks. I couldn't think straight. I actually couldn't function to the point where I could actually go through with it. So once I called her and told her it was all canceled, I called him and I said, listen, I've called and I've canceled everything. Within, I want to say 10 minutes, I get a message saying it's all back on. And I was like, what? Yeah, I told her not to cancel it. And so even though I had made the step to cancel everything, he called and said not to. And then I had to, and then I think we waited like another, I think it was a week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it was. And then I called and confirmed that it would be canceled, which ended up costing more money. And even then, he still wanted to go through with the wedding. Up until the last day, he wanted to go through with the wedding. Wouldn't stop with the calls, the text messages, emails, calls, text messages, reaching out to my family, reaching out to my friends, reaching out to my sister. It was dizzying, and it was like you can't think straight, like when somebody is constantly like trying to get a hold of you, and then you feel, I always felt obligated to answer him. I always felt obligated. And people would be like, you don't have to answer him. And I'm like, no, but, you know, we were together for this long, or he needs me. And it was crazy because after 10 years, he had a strange relationship with his family, and he didn't have one friend, not one, for 10 years. So I always felt like, well, how could I abandon him? He needs me. I'm the only person he has. I'm the only thing that he has. Like, I have to be there for him. So for me to not answer was too painful. I always had to, like, entertain him in a way. You know? And it was like, I know we can't be together, but I still love you. And you're amazing, and you're a good man. It was all this, like, validation that I gave him. But at the time, I didn't even know it was validation. I was literally just saying, like, what I think. But he would also kind of, like, prompt it from me.
You were still, even though you were out in a way, you were still caretaking his fragile ego.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And the craziest thing is, on our wedding day, we ran into each other. Oof. So on our actual wedding day, we ran into each other, And he was like trying to hug me and kiss me and not let me go. And he was like, and I was like, okay, stop, and eventually I walked away. But we chatted a little bit, and I remember he had chapped lips, and his lips were all cracking. And it took every ounce of my being. And the reason I didn't actually do it is because I was actually with my mother, so my mother wouldn't allow me to do it if I tried. But it took everything in my soul, because he was at a restaurant, and I was just stopping into the restaurant, and then I left, but he was still there. And there was a corner store, and it took all of me not to go into the corner store to buy him a chapstick, because all I wanted to do was make sure that he was okay and give him a chapstick. And so he ended up texting me after and said, it was nice running into you. And I was like, it was so nice running into you, and I miss you, and blah, 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 whatever. And I said, can you please put some coconut oil on your lip? And I left it in the cupboard in the kitchen. And it's like I still wanted to just take care of him.
So how long did it take for the trauma bond to disappear?
Yeah, so a couple things. So it's funny, because even after I called off the wedding, I was still very much attached to him. What ended up happening was, I made 10 years of mistakes, and then I made, the last year was the biggest mistake, I think, which was after I called off the wedding. Again, he never left me alone. So it wasn't like I called off the wedding and he left me alone. He never left me alone. And maybe, so a month after the wedding, a month and a half after the wedding, 2 to 3 months after I had ended the relationship, and then a month after the wedding had actually passed, he reached out to me again, and he said to me, I've been going to counseling. I appreciate you. I value you. I can't tell you how much I regret everything. And you're the one constant in my life, and you're my princess, and I'm going to put you on a pedestal. And I'm never going to get angry again. I've worked out all my anger issues, and I've talked to my therapist, and I'm a different person, and all of this, like everything that you want to hear, he said to me. And I made the mistake of actually going back to him.
Oh, you did?
I did. And I went back to him for another, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. For another 11 months, I went back to him. So I went back to him, and it went back to normal within weeks. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, I don't even know. And even from the first meeting that I had with him, he was showing me pictures of other women that he had dated while we were separated. Like, this was not like, I don't understand what I was thinking or how I was dealing with it, but I went back to him, and it was another 11 months. And within the 11 months, what happened was, probably within the first month that I got back with him, his mom got sick. And then I thought, oh my God, now I'm really never going to get away. Because if his mom is sick, I have to be there to support him. Like, he needs me to support him, so I can't go anywhere. So it was a constant that I have to be there for him. I have to support him. His mother's sick. Now, because his mother's sick, this is another reason I'm not allowed to have any, I'm not allowed to bring up any issues, and I'm not allowed to be upset about anything, because how dare you when I am dealing with my mother being sick. So if he's flirting with a woman in front of me, or he's hiding his phone, or he outright insults me in public or disrespects me, if I bring it up, again, it got twisted back onto me, because how dare you, my mother is sick. So what ended up happening in the end was his mother actually passed away. And when his mother passed away, I was with him, of course. I was with him every day. So I was with him. We rushed to the hospital. And again, because I had called off a wedding, it was very tense. Like, I didn't see his mother when she was in the hospital. And I didn't even know. Like, I even asked him, I said, I love you. Like, how can I support you? Tell me what I need to do. I actually said to him in words, because I thought that this would for sure come back on me somehow. Like, I knew, not on a subconscious level, I knew on a conscious level that somehow this is going to come back to me. So I said to him, you know, this is a really weird position for me to be in. Tell me what I need to do. If I need to go visit your mom, if I should send flowers, tell me, should I call? Tell me what I need to do in this situation. And he never told me what to do. And after his mother passed, again, I was with him on the day of. I dropped him back off to the hospital. At this point, he became progressively more angry towards me. He disregarded me. He didn't care. And he, you know, I remember just running around like a crazy person trying to get the house ready. So, you know, we had all the family coming to his house. So I was cleaning the house. I was buying supplies. You know, he's got a very large family, so there was like 100 people, you know, in and out of the house for days. I'm buying soap. I'm buying, you know, tissue paper. I'm buying whatever. I'm trying to get everything ready. I'm renting chairs for people to sit. Again, it's a religious family, so I have to cover my hair at certain points. Like, I'm doing everything I can to the point where I was physically ill, and I ignored it because I just had to make sure that everything got done for him. At this point, when like the day of the funeral, he sends me a text message and says, "You better not be late." And I said, okay, that's a weird thing to say, but okay. So I show up, and his ex is also at the funeral, the one that apparently had mental issues and wasn't well and all this stuff. Now, when we get there, he's actually ignoring me and talking to her. And it was the craziest thing because, like, I'm not acknowledging it. I'm trying to, like, not pay attention to it, thinking, well, he sees me every day. He hasn't seen her. But then a mutual friend of ours, you know, had mentioned to me, she's like, who is that woman? And I said, oh, that's his ex. And she's like, oh. And I said, why? She's like, well, I don't know. He hasn't really talked to you at all, and he just keeps talking to her. And I said, okay, whatever. And I shrugged it off. And then from the cemetery, I was driving one of his cousins to the airport, and I took her to the airport. I dropped her off, and then on the way back, I called him, and my sister was still in the car with me. And so I called him, and I said, hey. He's like, hey. And he was like really, really short with me. And he's like, what's that? What do you want? What do you need? I was like, oh, nothing. Like, I'm just letting you know I dropped your cousin off at the airport. It's all good. Like, you know, what are you doing now? Like, where should I go? What am I supposed to do? He's like, yeah, okay, fine. That's fine. Okay, good. Okay, can I call you back? And he got off the phone with me. And again, I was like trying not to notice anything, but my sister said, like, you know, wow, like he was really rude to you. And I thought, yeah, it's okay. Like, maybe something's going on or whatever. At the actual funeral, he said, oh, I want to go outside. So we went outside together, and he looked at me and he said, what month is it? And I said, it's June. He goes, oh. He's like, so we were supposed to be married last July. And I said, yeah. And he goes, oh. So now my mom's never going to see me get married. And I said, okay. he goes, yeah, she's never going to see that. And what's the point in getting married now? And so it's like he was still like trying to hurt me, even at his mother's funeral. I was like in shock. I was like, oh okay. Then like throughout like the whole thing, he would say, oh, look how lucky my cousin is. My cousin is so lucky, you know, and her husband is so lucky because she's such a good woman. She's such a good woman, and she does this, and this. And I don't have anybody. I have no one. And I'd be like, what? You have no one? What are you, like, what? What do you mean you have no one? Yeah, I have no one. And look how lucky these people are. And look how lucky my brother is. And his wife does all of these things. And that, it was like no matter what I did for him, I was made to feel absolutely worthless. And then he actually said to me, you know, he was going on some tirade about how I haven't made enough time for him. I'm inadequate as a woman. I'm useless. I mean, like the barrage of insults, like never stopped. I was useless. I was worthless. I was inadequate as a partner, inadequate as a woman. And so he's saying all of these things to me. And then he says, I couldn't believe it. Like my jaw dropped. He goes, and you know, you see me going through this and you're not even going to offer to give your man a blowjob? I don't know what else. I was in shock. I was like, wow. Not only did your mom just pass, but you've also been insulting me for days now. And then this is what you expect me to do. And he literally expected me to just get on my knees and do what he wanted me to do. But that's what he said to me. That's what he said to me. That's what he said to me. And I couldn't believe it. I don't know what else to say. And that was the point where I was just like, oh God. Like I was like, yeah, like I was just, and I think the good thing about having the 2 month break, you know, the month to 2 month break or whatever, was that I actually got to experience how normal people behave. So when I went back into it the last time, it was more of an eye-opener that this is not normal and that I don't have to accept it. Whereas before, like, but the craziest part is that I still slept with him one time after that comment. And he actually was very demeaning when we had sex, and like almost sexually abusive. And you know, he even asked me at the end, "Are you okay? Did I hurt you?" And it was so disgusting because he knows what he did. I was noticeably upset during. I told him, no, don't. I don't like that. But it's almost like what pisses me off is that I gave him the opportunity to demean me. I gave him the opportunity to put me in that vulnerable position and treat me poorly, and I gave him power. And I think he really enjoyed it. And that was the next day when I saw him, I was very much done. And again, he was going on a tirade, insulting me. And he had said to me, he goes, do you love me? And I said, you know what? I love you. I'm not in love with you anymore. Which is huge, because that's something I would never say to him, because I know where the rage would come from if I ever said anything like that to him. And then it was funny because it actually, like, he said, what do you mean? And he got very upset, but then he went past it, which is not normal. Like, he should hold on to that. But I was in bed because he had kept me up the night before until 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I had to be at work for 8 o'clock in the morning. So I had maybe like 2.5, 3 hours sleep. And like I said, he used to deprive me of sleep all the time. So I was very much just like, I just felt like a shell of a human being. And so I was in bed, I was in my underwear, I was in bed, and I really just didn't even care to talk to him. So he was going on this tirade, pacing back and forth. He used to do this thing where, and I would actually just like literally watch the clock sometimes. He could actually talk for 2 hours straight, and I didn't get one word in. And I would watch the clock. I couldn't believe it. He would be talking to himself. The only thing that I would do was this. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He would talk for 2 hours, just go on a tirade about anything, even if it wasn't about me. He would just go on and have this, like, conversation with himself. So anyway, so he was pacing back and forth and just doing, and just insulting me. And what set him off, like, I would have thought that the "I love you, but I'm not in love with you" would have set him off. I thought that for sure would have touched the nerve, and it did. But what really set him off was, he said, after he finished insulting me, he said, "You weren't there for me." And I was literally there for everything. And so he said, "You weren't there for me." And I said, he was in the living room, I was in the bedroom, but it's like very like open, so in his closed quarters. So, I said, "Well, I guess it's good that I wasn't there for you," because he had just finished telling me how much of a horrible person I am. And at that point, he jumped into the bed and started to choke me and attack me. And he was really good, though. He was really good because I think he knew not to leave a mark. So he kept cocking his fist like he was going to punch me in the face. And I was like screaming, "No, no, no, please don't, please don't." And he stopped himself from doing it. And I think, and I don't believe for a second that there was anything holding him back other than the fact that it would leave a mark to the point that couldn't be explained away. And that was how it essentially ended. And it wasn't until maybe 6 months later I actually realized what I had been through.
And going through that process and understanding what happened, you had a clarity, I assume, that you didn't have before. Was it relieving, or was there more pain involved when you were when you started to understand what was actually, or what did transpire?
So I actually, like, afterwards, I think I was just elated to be away from him. So I was trying to stay busy. Like, I was trying to work, and I was doing all these social things, and I was just like, I was just like happy that I was able to lay down at night without concern that somebody was going to attack me, without concern that somebody was going to, emotionally attack me or verbally abuse me. And I was just on this level where I was just like, I didn't address anything that happened. I was just trying to cover up the pain and go out as much as possible and do as much as possible. It wasn't until I had a little bit of a slow period. And what happened was I started to get, I wasn't able to sleep very well, but I didn't think about anything. And then all of a sudden, I started to get these nightmares and of past events that happened. And I started to think about what really happened, and I was like, you know, it's really messed up what happened, but at the same time, you know, it was more like, oh my gosh, did I call it quits too soon? Did I do something wrong? What did I do wrong? How did I do it? Was it my fault? You know, he didn't, you know, he's only touched me this many times. So maybe I did something that pushed him to the edge. Why did I do that? How did I do it? So I started like researching different scenarios of things that I've been through. And it wasn't, and I became obsessed. I literally became obsessed with figuring out what had transpired in my relationship. And at this point, he was still harassing me. So he actually contacted me through over 15 different phone numbers, emails, and also sending, the first day that I cut him off, he sent Uber Eats orders to my place with like my favorite foods, contacting my friends, contacting my sister. It was at this point, like I really knew that there was, if I ever responded again, that it would start all over again and we would go back to the beginning. And so I did my best not to talk to him. And like I said, I became obsessive in finding out what had transpired in my relationship. And it wasn't until, you know, sleepless nights and all of these things and that I figured out that he was a narcissist. And not only is he a narcissist, like he has narcissistic personality disorder. It was the entirety of our relationship was word for word what he is and who he is. And I don't say that lightly because even up until this day, I will read something that fully explains exactly who he is and still try to justify his behavior and still try to justify our relationship and still try to justify who he is. And so it's a constant struggle for me because it's like I know who he is, but I still have a very, very hard time believing it.
Are you having a difficult time processing a lot of the emotions that you have about everything? Are you having a tough time breaking through?
Now, I'm just in a constant state of alertness. I'm in a constant state of anger. I'm in a constant state of pain. And I feel like every time I put on a happy face or I have to see somebody, I feel like it's a really, really big effort. I feel like it's like I have to try to turn something on that's not there. My work, you know, given the current like global situation that we're in, as awful as it sounds, it was almost a blessing to me because I was not able to focus when I was at work. To the point where people were recognizing it. Basically what happened is as soon as I actually acknowledged what I had been through and then realized, not only acknowledged what I had been through, but realized what I had actually been through and realized that this person was a narcissist and realized that my last 10 years of my life was essentially just one big lie. It broke me. It absolutely broke me. I can't eat properly. I can't sleep properly. You know, my mind is always running. I'm always, you know, ruminating. I'm having all these nightmares. You know, if I'm like I said, I'm constantly alert. If, you know, a coworker who I knew my coworker was behind me. This was like a week ago. I knew my coworker was there, but she tapped me on the shoulder, and I literally screamed and started crying. and I didn't know what that was. And I explained it to, I've been seeing somebody, I've been seeing a therapist, and she said, well, yeah, that's because you're hyper alert and you're very edgy. And that comes with, post-traumatic stress. And I was like, but what do you mean post-traumatic stress? Like, I was in a relationship. She's like, well, you can get this, from being in traumatic situations for an extended period of time, which I didn't know. But I'm very jumpy and I'm very hyper alert. Like, I had gone to a networking, like a work event, and I ran into somebody. You're networking, you're meeting new people, and I ran into somebody, and I gave them my card, and by the end of our conversation, we had all of a 10-minute conversation. By the end of the conversation, they had asked me out, and I said, I'm really just looking for, professional relationships and platonic relationships. If you'd ever like to grab a coffee with a friend, that would be great, right? And I left, and after leaving, this person sent me 39 text messages, called me 9 times, left 3 voicemails, and a 1-page email. And I immediately, first of all of the flags went up for me, and I was like, narcissist, crazy person, narcissist, crazy person. And then I also felt like, oh my God, am I attracting them? Is something wrong with me? Is something wrong with me that these people are coming for me? And then I thought, oh, and this is the part that I'm really trying to work on. Am I overthinking this? Maybe they just felt a connection and I should just be kind and say, no, thank you. And again, it took everything in me not to respond to this person and say, hey, it's a little much, but let's be friends, because that's what I would have done in the past, and I would have excused their behavior. So my journey is still going, and I'm still learning, but I'm definitely hyper alert to different red flags and signs. And you're
having obsessive thoughts.
I'm obsessed. I'm totally obsessed. Yeah. I'm obsessed to the point where, I can't sleep. Mm-hmm. If I can fall asleep, as I'm falling asleep, I am ruminating and thinking about, the past and situations and my ex and all of these things. And eventually I'll hit the point of exhaustion and then I fall asleep. But I wake up countless times, and I usually can only sleep for maximum 3 hours. If I get 3 hours in, I'm happy. The worst part is that, like I said, I am having all of these nightmares and things within those 3 hours.
Well, that's it. You're not even having 3 hours of sleep. Your brain, while you're sleeping, is just running wild. There's no rest going on. That's
running wild.
Yeah.
Running wild. Nightmares and everything. And something new for me is I started to get night sweats. So I don't sweat. And I'm not saying that, for anything. I'm not somebody who sweats. I don't sweat when I go to the gym. I don't sweat when I go to the beach. I just genuinely do not sweat. I am waking up in the mornings now and in the middle of the night where my bed is completely drenched, and I'm just soaking wet from the chest, just all over my chest. I will be soaking wet. For the first time in my life, I even throughout my relationship, I was never an angry person. I was more of a person who is very let's talk about this. And don't get me wrong, there was definitely times where I was pushed to the edge, where I would scream. I would scream like a crazy person, and I would really scream and let out all this stuff. But I've never been an aggressive person or an angry person. And it got to the point where I did have to go see my doctor because I couldn't control my rage. So I didn't take it out on anybody else, but the second I was alone, whether it was in my place or alone in an elevator or alone in the garage or alone wherever I was alone, I would just start to just cry and start punching walls, kicking walls, hitting things. I would be in the middle of the night. I would start like excessively punching my bed and punching the walls and punching pillows and hitting my head and hitting my legs and just hitting and hitting and hitting. And I couldn't control it. Like no matter what I did, I could not stop just wanting to hit things and hit myself. I have been able to get past that now, but I can't explain the place I was in to the point where it's like I can't believe this. Like there was nothing I could do, and I just wanted to keep hitting things. I tried to go to the gym. The gym didn't help. I would be crying during a class. I really wanted to hurt something and to hurt myself, which I have since, thank goodness, gotten past that part. But I'm still having, the night terrors and the night sweats, and before my eyes even open, my mind is already racing before I'm even conscious. And something really funny that happened to me, like actually just a few nights ago, which actually upset me even more, was I had a good memory of my ex. I had a really good memory of him when I was sleeping. It was a good dream. It was a good memory. And I actually woke up from my dream smiling and laughing. And that really, like, you would think like, oh, okay, well, that's better than having a nightmare. But it was worse because I'm like, why would I have a good thought and feel these good feelings to somebody who was really hurtful and damaging to me? Why am I waking up smiling and reminiscing about something, good with us? So that was hard to deal with. Aside from not being able to sleep, I've my weight has fluctuated, so I've lost quite a bit of weight, and I've also started to lose my hair, and I don't know. I don't know if that's a stress thing or maybe there's some kind of issue, but I've never lost my hair before, and my hair is starting to fall out. So that's everything that kind of like prompted me to seek therapy. And so that's where I'm at now, and I'm seeking therapy to try to get through this.
Just to make you feel better, when you hair loss is a symptom of PTSD for some people, and so it's not abnormal. What's going on with you? All of the things you were just talking about, from your anger outbursts, the obsessive thoughts, to where are we here on my list? Because I was looking at the list while you were talking. Everything you were saying is a symptom of trauma, and it's new. Everything here is new. It's you're dealing with it for the first time, and it's 10 years. So it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff, and you have to. The best reminder for you is it's not going to be an overnight fix. Even if it was a normal breakup, and if it was a 10-year normal breakup, 10 years that you're still going to have to deal with 10 years of, even that was a normal breakup. That's going to take a long time to process and get over. And yours is a 10-year relationship that was traumatic, and there was verbal, emotional, and physical abuse involved. And that's going to take longer. And you just to remind yourself to be patient with yourself and understanding. And, it's easy to say to you all these things, and it's not as easy to do. But, everyone listening who's been through this is with you on it. And, I want nothing but the best for you to kind of go through this process. And part of the process is to go through these difficult things. But, when you do get to the other side, you're going to have a really great understanding of what happened, and you'll grow into being a stronger version of you and a better version of you. And hopefully people won't be insulted by me saying a better version of you. I just mean more a version of, understanding of who you are as a person. And, I wish nothing but the best for you, because what happened to you was wrong and you didn't deserve it. So, my heart goes out to you, because it's a lot. You dealt with a lot of stuff, and you're here now, and I'm grateful you're here with me today. And it's unfortunate that you're here with me today, but I'm grateful that you're here talking to me. And, before we end the show, do you have anything you want to say to everyone out there? One last thing.
I think the hardest thing, and you just said that I should be, kind to myself and forgive myself. I think that's the hardest thing, because I don't at this point. Like, I still don't understand why I allowed myself to be in this relationship. And I still don't understand why I continue to go back. And I still don't understand why I knew things were wrong and I still allowed it. I don't understand why I thought so little of myself that I put this person before everything that I ever wanted, needed, or deserved. I still don't understand that.
You were psychologically broken down, and little by little, he knew exactly what to do. He knew exactly what buttons to push with you, and he knew exactly how to fix it. And when he's doing that, and he's making a mental map of everything, and he might not be physically writing it down, but he's mentally making points. That worked. Oh, that didn't work. That worked. Oh, I said that didn't go over too well, but then I said this, and that fixed it. And now, oh, look how she's acting. Now I don't even have to do anything. She's doing it on her own. She's doing the work for me. You were being manipulated the whole entire time. And part of that manipulation was to get you to act the way he wanted when he wasn't even around. And he was very good at that. And that was his job. And you ran into someone who was a master of it. And
he used to tell me that I was the manipulative one. He used to say that I manipulated him. And he used to tell me that I was abusive.
And that's, that was his trick. He's a con man. And, all of us who's listening, and we've all been conned before. And we all feel shame and guilt attached to it, but over time it lessens, especially when Sorry, go ahead. No, just over time it lessens, and especially when you get the understanding of the person you're dealing with is not, their intention was never to be good to you. And some of them know it, and some of them are aware of what they're doing, and some of them aren't aware of what they're doing, but they're still trying to pick the lock of your safe. And yours did. And yours was going to do it to whoever they did it to. It could have been, someone that you considered the smartest person in the world. This person was still going to try and be persistent to do it. And yours was persistent. Even, that two engagements. And then even after the engagement, still persisted. And then even after that, still persisted. When you have someone who's persistent, and is, trying to break open a fence, if they keep on banging that fence, they're going to find the right spot to break it open. And, that's what happens. And, there's nothing. Sorry, continue.
If there's any advice that I want to give to anybody out there, do not compromise what your basic needs, wants, and what you deserve. It is not your fault how they treat you. You are not to blame. You know, as hard as it is for me to still come to terms with that, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. And if somebody shows you their true colors, please believe them. Please believe them. Because he used to say the most atrocious, hurtful, painful, crazy things to me. And he would tell me afterwards, oh, I'm sorry. You know, I just say things when I get mad. You know, I just say things to hurt you. You know, I just say things because you said this to me. You know, it's your fault because you did this. You said this, you did this. You acted like this, and that's why I had to do that. No, that is not a fucking normal response. That is not normal. Because with all of the things that I knew about him and all of the stuff he shared with me, I would never, ever go to a place where I would use that against him. And I have never done that in any other relationship in my life because it's not right and it's not how you behave. So my advice to anybody is please, please, please do not make excuses. If something is wrong, it is wrong. It is wrong. It is wrong. It is wrong. There is no excuse for it. It's not I'm having a bad day. It's not my business is going under. It's not my mom is dying. It's not, you know, I have cancer, you know, because he used to also use health against me and make up different things. He said he had a stroke. He didn't have a stroke. It doesn't matter. And you know what? Even if your partner or somebody you love has a stroke, it is not an excuse to be mentally, emotionally, or God forbid, physically abusive towards you. It is still not an excuse to treat you like that. So no matter what, if there's any advice I have to give somebody, please do not waste your years. Please do not waste your time. Please do not exhaust your energy and, you know, on a person who is showing you who they are. Do not make excuses for them. That is the advice I have, because if there's one thing in the world that I want, and I used to, every time we used to argue, you know, near the end, he would say, what do you want from me? And I would say, I just want a time machine. That's it. I just want a time machine. Because there's a lot of things that you can get back. You can get money back. You can get friends back. You can get careers back. You can get, you know, family back. But you cannot get your time. And I sacrificed so much because I sacrificed my time. So that is my advice. Please, please, please. If you don't know what you're dealing with, keep reading, keep listening, keep getting help so that you don't have to waste 10 years of your life. And that is my advice to you.
Well, Hanna, thank you very much for being on the show tonight. And, you know, it was been an honor for you to tell me your story and share your story with our audience. And I just want a big thank you for being here. So,
thank you.
For everyone else out there listening, I hope you have a good night.